Alrighty, welcome back to Forerunners. I am Kevin Wallis. I am joined, as always, by Kurt Korte from the Dare County Correctional Facility. And we are going to get right into it with our top spots this week. Kurt, good to see you. Glad you get a little time off here. We're going to start with Lower Trestles at number 5. This was a recent south swell, and be forgiven if you thought it was from a couple weeks ago. This is actually just from a couple of days ago. We had a really nice run of surf for Southern California, several southerly swells over the last, basically 2 weeks now. So really pumping surf, almost too large for lowers. You can see it gets almost a little bit washy at times, but boy, beautiful conditions, and we've got more coming for Southern California. We've got some more south swell lining up as we move through the weekend to early next week. I don't know if conditions are going to be quite this nice, but a nice mixture of swells out there, and we'll take it because September was tough, and it's lovely to see surf like this. Moving over to number 4, we're going to stay in the Pacific, and we're going to hang in Sunset Beach on the north shore of Oahu. This is one of our new cam angles. This is the West Peak cam. This is a solid north swell from just a few days ago. Sunset, this is actually my favorite swell direction at Sunset Beach, Kurt. When it's a little more north-northwest, you get that line that connects pretty much all the way from the point to the inside bowl. You get these long freight training rights, kind of like a point break. When it's a little more westerly, sometimes it'll focus more on that West Peak, and you don't have quite the line up there. But beautiful conditions, solid early season swell, and looks like we might have some more coming up too for the North Shore as we head into November.
Well, hey, Kevin, first off, thanks for taking my one call. Really appreciate it. We'll switch over here to the Rockaways, Long Island. This was an easterly swell, and if you know anything about Long Island, Surfline has a really a long history here. This is one of our original surf cams. It's been up for more than 20 years. But Sean, of course, did the study ahead of the Quick Pro, looking at the bathymetry here associated with the Hudson Canyon and east and southeast swells and how they refracted in different areas. Just a beautiful, beautiful set of cams, and they've had a great run of waves. We'll shift over to the other side of the Atlantic Basin here to one of my favorites, a nice long barreling left in Mundaka. Really interesting here. I've been hearing some great reports from some friends I know that are actually over there in Europe. The sand is absolutely incredible there, like all-time good, and it's actually so shallow that you can walk across from one side to the other, the river mouth there. So super rare that happens, but apparently it's just razor edge, just perfect right now. Saw some great waves there on October 20th here. Nice long barrels, just incredible. Such an awesome cam to watch. Love it.
That's great. Hey, thanks for tolerating a left there too, Kurt. I appreciate it. Number 1, we're going to move back to Indonesia. We're moving to Indonesia. This is Nias. I was thinking when I was watching this cam, like, what do you think are our best spectator cams on the site? So we've got meaning you don't care if you're going to surf there. It's just pumping. It's entertaining. It's like a surf video. We got Nias. We got padding. We got pipe. What are the other ones? What are the best spectator cams that we have on the site in your opinion, Kurt?
Man, Sheeta.
Nailed it.
No, that's a great question. I like Porto's a great one. I think from the just watching it from that angle. I gotta think J Bay. J Bay is a good one.
Yeah, J Bay is a good one. Yeah, and you guys out there, guys and gals, give us a heads up in the comments here or on Instagram. Some of those your favorite spectator cams. All right, so honorable mention. This was not caught on one of our cams, obviously, but was a season opening swell at Mullaghmore just a few days ago. Wasn't giant, but it was very solid. We've got a great story on the site right now, kind of documenting that day, the saga of Joey Crum during the swell. Highly recommended. This video is incredible too, and just insane day in Ireland.
Yeah, and Joey's actually from here on the Outer Banks, down in Buxton, and seen him get some absolute nuggets there on the first groin at the lighthouse. But this is this is one of those. I don't know that I've ever really seen the drone view of this, but it is wild.
I don't think I have either.
It's super cool.
What's this guy's name, Kurt? Do you remember?
I think Garage.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Name. I feel like we're
awesome.
two Forerunners in a row where we just have some incredible names on surfers, and obviously ripping surfers on the side here too.
Gosh, it's just
Russell.
Wave.
A scary wave.
Hmm. That's cool. We like, I love like we have some insane stuff that comes out of Europe. There's some incredible stuff that comes out of New Zealand. Like I feel like 10 years ago it was, hey, here's a New Jersey swell story again. Whereas now it's like, I mean, just it's global, and just seeing like some of the waves that are around the world, it really gets me excited about going and surfing 2-foot slop.
Yeah, shout out to our editorial team around the world. To Jason over in the UK, just crushed it with this Molly swell, with the Mendaka story, with a recent story in Southwest France too. Just beautiful surf and beautiful conditions. All right, moving right along. We had another great batch of Ask a Forecaster questions this week. Thank you for everyone that submitted a question. Please keep them coming through our Surfline Instagram account. Love to hear them, and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. This one's coming from Jake in Florida this week, and Mark, please roll that footage.
Hey Kevin, I'm Jake. I'm a surfer here on the east coast of Florida, and around this time of year I love watching hurricanes, and I was wondering what type of computer models do you guys use to forecast swells? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jake. Appreciate the question. And per usual, there's several different things that we look at here. You know, first and foremost is our Lotus swell model, which powers or produces wave forecast for all of our spots on the site. We run that in-house. That's powered by the GFS wind model. So that's going to drive everything that you see on Surfline. However, our forecast team also looks at a variety of different models and ensembles to inform our written forecasts and notes. Kurt, what are the different things that you look at, that we look at as a forecast team typically?
Yeah, I mean, there's several different websites. I mean, the internet is awash with places where you can go and get good information on tropical systems. You know, I really like Tropical Tidbits for some of the Hurricane Hunter recon that they have, satellite imagery there as well. But one site that is close and near and dear to the hearts of the forecast team here is Tomer Berg's site here, that has a wide range of different swell models, ensembles, and just a great place to go and kind of get the full big picture of not just what a single model is doing, but the whole model suite of all these different models that are run to try to predict intensity and track of these the tropical system. So that's one of the first ones I pull up in the mornings this time of year.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out too that this isn't we're not just looking at all these different models when we're tracking hurricanes or tropical cyclones. This is happening for every storm we're tracking across the globe. Like it's great to get a good idea, help raise confidence levels and things like that when you can look at different models. And hey, ideally they all line up and say the same thing, but if they don't, we have to sometimes hedge things just a little bit. And obviously, we're just looking at the East Pacific there because we've got an actual tropical cyclone in the Eastern Pacific right now. That's Hurricane Kristy. Another question we've heard a fair bit of lately, is the surf potential from major hurricane Kristy. Was briefly a Category 5 hurricane with sustained wind of around 140 knots, well within the Southern California swell window to the southwest of Cabo. The question is, are we going to get pumping surf from it? And the answer is actually surprisingly no, for a couple of different reasons. Obviously it's a very strong storm. It's the intense. That's how it gets that Category 5 rating on the Saffir-Simpson scale. But there's a couple of things that are working against it. First and foremost, what we'll look at is the track of Kristy has just not been very good. It's been booking out to the west over the last couple of days, although it's starting to turn a little bit more to the northwest now. Wednesday and Thursday, it was just, cranking out to the west at around 15 to 17 knots. That's pushing most of the swell out towards Hawaii. We want to see in Southern California, we want to see storms that are moving up more to the northwest or even north if we can. That's going to really produce the most swell. And then what's the other reason that we're looking at? Other major factor we're looking at, Kurt?
Storm size, Kevin.
Yep.
If you think about swell production, it's strong winds blowing over a great area for a long amount of time, a long duration. And, the small size of even a very intense hurricane like Kristy is going to limit the amount of swell that's being produced. So we like to see large storms. I think you told me earlier, this is approximately a quarter of the size of Hurricane Marie.
Roughly,
you get that, and that significantly impacts the amount of swell that's being generated. That combined with the track, and those are not things you want.
Yeah, unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier, Kristy has started to turn a little bit more now to the northwest. It's weakening. It's still a very small storm, so it's not going to be a major swell from it by any means, but we are expecting a little bit of a bump as we move through the weekend. Later this weekend, it's going to combine with some other southern hemisphere south swell, some west-northwest swell. So really some fun waves again later in the weekend as all those swells combine, but it's not necessarily going to be, or it isn't going to be, a pumping swell from Kristy. Okay. Hey, Kurt, I've got a question for you. What's another spot that really gets good on hurricane swells, or gets pretty good at least? Wedge.
Oh,
right?
I was going to say Avalon Pier, but
that's a good call too.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you didn't tell me it had to be in California. So yeah, Wedge.
Yeah. Wedge. Our clip of the week is Brad Domke's board transfer at Wedge on a recent south swell. It wasn't a hurricane swell, wasn't a tropical swell. It was a southern hemisphere swell, pretty insane. I'm gonna set the over under, Kurt, at 75 boards that he's broken trying to do this over the year soft tops. You taking the over? You taking the under?
I think he's been doing it for a while, so I gotta take the over. I do wonder if he has like a board caddy. Like, does someone go get the wave storm or whatever and like run it over to him? Because I could do that. That could be something I could do.
I mean, fortunately, you hear it at Wedge, and you kick out, and you're basically on the sand. So it's like maybe a 10-yard walk back to that board. But
what do you give that
the
kick
rumor
out?
is, the rumor is 100 boards that he has broken doing this. So well done on the over.
Yeah. You would think he'd have his own signature model that would be reinforced at this point. If you've bought over 100 of them, it feels like you get one or two free.
I don't know. Maybe he takes them back to Costco after he breaks them. I think you can do that.
Put them back in the plastic.
Yeah. This one didn't work out. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, this is South Swell. So the natural segue is: do we have any more South Swell coming to California, or South Swell going anywhere? And I'm going to say probably yes. Like, odds are yeah. Here's a look at our global wave height animation, and the thing that stands out to me this week is we're starting to see the southern hemisphere storm track slow down a little bit, far from stopping. We still got a lot of activity down there. The northern hemisphere continues to pick up. So it's going to be another week where we've got surf coming out of the north and south, pretty much around the world, which is a good thing. We'll move over to the Indian Ocean first. And like I said, it's a bit quieter than it was, especially as we look back to our last episode of Forerunners, where we saw some crazy storms in the Indian Ocean. Actually, one of the biggest swells of the year hit Indonesia a week or so ago. And, we're not going to see that type of activity or that type of fireworks, but we still got some medium to strong southwest swells for Southwest Oz over the next few days. Some mornings with morning windows of favorable wind, and then fun to medium-sized surf up into Indonesia over the next few days as well, next week especially. This is a time of year around Bali where winds start to get light and kind of swirly, so that looks like it is going to be the case next week. But still plenty of fun surf coming up. Can be a great time of year. This is kind of getting into the shoulder season, but it's almost like the best unkept secret in the surf world. All right, moving over to the South Atlantic. What do we got over there, Kurt?
Yeah, similar story over here. Not as active as what we've seen over the past couple of months as you'd expect, but we do have a system that's moving off of Brazil. It's going to dive southeastward through the South Atlantic. That's going to provide a nice little south to southwest pop for the Brazilian coastline here over the weekend and into early next week, when we'll see a little bit of a reinforcing pulse, which we can see moving past the Falkland Islands there on the animation. Looking over towards Africa, South Africa, most of the storm activity, you see the system right close there to the southern tip of South Africa. But over the South Atlantic, typically staying somewhat far away, so some mid to longer period southwest to west southwest swell, but nothing too huge here for us. So waves, but again, a little bit quieter than what we've seen previously here as we shift back over into the South Pacific.
All right, I'll take it away. So kind of similar story. Had a lot of activity, 7 to 10 days ago or so. We're going to see the fruits of that activity through the Americas over the next few days here. We've got another nice run of south-southwest swell coming up through the weekend and into early next week. After that, things are going to settle a little bit through the very end of October and through the first part of November, but still some fun surfing. Really, as you go down in Central America and mainland Mexico, got some great waves coming up through that first week or so of November. Looking on the other side of the basin, Had a nice east swell in Queensland and New South Wales. Kind of these last few days, we've got some south swell coming up over this next week to see if conditions end up cooperating or not. Looking at New Zealand, plenty of west-southwest swell over the next several days, but a lot of weather, a lot of wind coming with it, I should say, onshore wind, so it doesn't look like the best of conditions. But, the basin is still alive and well, and looks like we got plenty more surf coming up over the next 1 to 2 weeks. Kicking back to you up into the North Atlantic on a little right up there.
There you go. So interesting here, the system that's in the Western Atlantic to start, it's actually partially related to the remnants of what was Hurricane Oscar. And Oscar was an interesting story because a week ago, we didn't think we were going to have a hurricane. And then all of a sudden we woke up on Saturday morning and really small system, but it spun up really quick. And after impacting the Bahamas and Cuba, was eventually absorbed into this system that's providing waves for the East Coast and Caribbean here over the next couple of days. Also, a decent amount of storm activity in the North Atlantic. Nothing really that stands out there that's super huge or crazy. But again, we're transitioning in, through the fall into the winter. It's going to be just pedal to the metal there here over the next, 5 or 6 months or so. So not too much on our plate here the next week, but it's early season. So we got plenty of ways to go. So we kick on over to what's probably the most active basin, right, is the North Pacific.
Yeah, it's a strong candidate, that's for sure. We've got stuff going on in the tropics. We mentioned Hurricane Kristy. You can see that well to the west-southwest of Baja. Also had a nice storm develop to the northeast of Hawaii. That set some northeast swell to Hawaii these last couple of days. That's going to send some west to west-northwest swell to California as we move through the weekend. Like I mentioned earlier, that's going to mix with all those other swells, southerly swells, tropical swells, and just a nice combo and mixture of surf as we move through the weekend for California. More coming too. We've got a larger and stronger storm dropping out of the Gulf of Alaska, pushing towards California as we head through the later weekend, early next week. That actually could bring a little bit of weather to us, some rain, particularly for areas north of Point Conception, probably a lot of onshore wind kicking up by Monday and Tuesday, but on the, sometime on the backside of that low pushing east, we could see more favorable wind set up again. And then we've got more surf or more storms and more swell coming up in the longer range. We'll move to our purple blob of the week now. And this is a storm that's developing in the western North Pacific. This particular run doesn't look crazy, but what we've seen on a number of different models and different runs at times, something you alluded to earlier, Kurt, when we were talking about the importance of looking at those different forecast models, is we've seen the storm look really, really impressive, in particular on the European model. And so we're going to be watching for some surf, for some swell, for the Hawaiian Islands, somewhere around November 3rd. Could be a solid one, not necessarily XXL, but certainly could be one of the larger northwest swells and probably the largest northwest swell of the season. We'll see how things shake out in the next few days. And it looks like we've got some more activity out the back too. A lot of activity, tropical activity in the Western Pacific. We'll start to see potentially those cyclones recurve, come back into the North Pacific. And a lot of times when we see that, that just opens up the whole basin and you kind of start to go on a run with lots more swell. So hopefully that's the case. Kurt, I'm gonna cross my fingers. I think you're gonna do the same for us too.
I'm just wondering, I was looking at this, that system's a little bit too far west for Sheeta, but yeah, I got my fingers crossed for you, Kevin. More waves in the Pacific, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
I love that we can always bring it back to Sheeta. I appreciate that about you, buddy. All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. We're going to be back with a new episode of Forerunners on November 8th. In the meantime, check out our latest edition of Wave Faces. This is featuring Trent Bopovich of Morro Bay. Really cool piece. Kurt, good to see you, buddy. We'll see you. Well, I'll see you very soon, but we'll see you back here in Forerunners in 2 weeks.
Send bail.
Yes! It's the guy. He's getting this right now. It's happening. Shit. That's quintessential small town vibe. Boys rolling around everywhere. Hey, my name's Trent Popovich, Morro, California, and I love to surf. I fell in love with surfing, watching my dad do it, and watching how much fun he was having in the places we were going. It's really interesting to me. And living by the beach, being in the water all day, it's pretty easy to fall in love with. What's special to me about this place, the small town aura or vibe, whatever you want to call it, here is really kind and seemingly special. A lot of good-hearted people. The acronym for the area says it all. SLO, slow, mellow, little cafe culture. Waves aren't usually that good, but on the off days you get a surf. Yeah, lately some things that I like to get into besides surfing, a little bit of fashion and music, paints and digital media, and kind of expressing what I get from surfing through all those mediums. So kind of dabbling art, music, and making edits and stuff. In Cayucas, there's a little shop that does graphic design, and it's been fun to be down there and see that process of creating something from start to finish. And definitely just being around creative people can't buy that. What surfing helps with is the comfort of mind, knowing that all that other stuff is, here today and gone tomorrow. And surfing, hopefully, isn't one of those things. It's part of you, you're a part of it, and there's always room for growth. And you're never gonna stop going to the beach.